Apologize to everyone out there who's wondering what happened. We have no idea what happened. Let me just double check that we are live now.
It,
All right,
it
I
finished.
can't
It
see it.
finished. The show finished for some reason.
I can't see the stream in Discourse, mate.
Yeah, same.
You can't?
Oh wait, no.
Yeah,
There's something.
yeah.
There's something live. Yeah.
Yep. All right.
All
I
right.
think we
So-
are back.
Sweet.
We are back.
All right, let's punch that link out on Twitter. Hey.
Oh, hang on. I got to quickly do the send it to crypto DJ Cryptomatics.
Yes,
All right.
please do. Okay, so I was about to say there were some negative things that some people were typing in the chat. And I think I know we come from the mindset, the Hex community a lot of us come from the mindset that we're just like Hex has got ticks all the boxes. I think it's important to consider the fact that when you've got a new blockchain, you want lots of projects to come and deploy on that blockchain. And with a closed-minded way of thinking, I think we're really going to cut off our nose to spite our face. We want to be open and welcoming. And as far as I can see, the only thing that you could say about liquid loans is that there are oracles. And some people might say, well, oracles, I prefer not to have oracles. Just remember, if you can't have a bridge from Pulse to another blockchain without either admin keys or an oracle. You need to have that in that process as well, because there's no way to currently do it without. So, I mean, we just need to be open-minded that this is really essentially no different from that problem. It is a problem in blockchain that you need to have someone that you can trust or some protocol that you can trust to give you price data, USDL or US dollars to Pulse, so that the system can work. So yeah, I just wanted to.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what stable comes onto the platform. It's going to have that issue.
Yeah, the problem that we had with all the other DeFi projects in the space was never that it's not Hex. It was the fact that they had significant deal breaker problems with them, like admin keys and things like that. So yeah.
Okay, so while we're on that note, so with liquid loans, is there any switches, dials, anything that an admin has to do once this is up and running?
Nothing. Once it's launched, it's completely out of our control.
Yep.
Nice.
Well, that sounds good. Yeah, definitely. So, how do you like vet the borrowers? Like, how do you say, is it based on how much pulse they've got? They can then borrow, I don't know, against that, only that, or can they go say, well, I've got $10,000. Can I go and fractional reserve lend $100,000?
Well, this would actually be like the opposite of fractional reserve, like the inverse of that. But let me explain it. The code is completely open source. Other people will be able to build their front ends as well. We'll have our front end, but even if our front end goes down, just like Hex has a front end, go.hex.com.
Right. Wow.
We've heard Richard say, well, what happens if Richard, was to, pass away? Well, go.hex.com would probably not stay up and running, but we already have other front ends. So you'll see people do the same thing with this protocol. They'll build even their own front ends for it because the back end code is open source.
So you can basically, you don't have to go and see a bank manager to get a loan. You can just go on there and run the code.
Use your Pulse.
So so Stephen's put a comment in chat, and he said his biggest concern is being liquidated and losing my Pulse. So, like I said, any system that you choose to use, you set your risk level. So in liquid loans, how do you adjust your risk?
Also, let's be clear here. At the point of liquidation, you could just go with the money that you loaned and buy as much Pulse almost as much pulse back again.
And probably cheaper.
That's a good point. Unless you've used the money to buy Lambos, then obviously you can't. But
no.
Yeah, provided that you have a degree of liquidity with what you've gone and done with it. Say you went and bought Hex, or if you had it in USDC or something like that, you could actually quickly re-enter and buy the pulse that you've just had taken from you or had left. Yeah.
Well, if they didn't use the loan protocol, they would have sold their pulse anyway. Thus, they wouldn't have their pulse because they wanted to get value for something else, whether it be another asset or to buy a car, whatever it might have been. They would have sold their pulse anyway. This gives them an option not to sell their pulse, still extract the value, and maybe come back and get their pulse. Maybe not.
Good point.
And why they're holding that asset, if pulse dives 50%, well, guess what? You just go buy it back at 50% off.
Yep. Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. You've got to think of this as pulse that you wouldn't actually even have because you would have had to have sold it.
But there's even more. But wait, there's more.
Wait, there's more.
You got free steak knives or something?
We haven't touched on and I don't know if I'm fully promoting it just yet. I'm still trying to figure it out. But there is the very positive thing is the tax implication. And I think before we cut out the stream, somebody mentioned that in the chat as well, that because you're not selling your crypto, you're taking out a loan, which is in many countries or in all of them, I guess, not a taxable event. So if your fiat bank plays along, there's always this question, where is this money coming from? Like if they accept that this is an official loan, then that might be very good as well. Because we touched on this last time I was here in the green room, that everybody's now trying to figure out how to best possibly tax their gains. And that is one thing that can potentially help.
The Mango Junkies just summed up my thinking in his comment.
No tax, yeah. No, but it's important. It's part of it.
No, it is.
That's
it is
one of the pros.
I love talking about tax. I just don't like paying tax. I love talking about it.
So the reason why I giggled at that comment is A, it depends on your jurisdiction. B, it depends on your accountant. There's a whole raft of things, and everyone's going to have
Depends
an opinion.
on your bank.
So once you go down that rabbit hole, it's a hard one to get out of.
And I actually don't think there's any point in focusing on that because we want to know about the protocol.
Yeah.
We want to know about the protocol, and you can have that discussion about every single crypto out there. It's grey area, so there's no point us focusing on that.
Agreed.
That is the massive use case of this protocol. Like apart from diversifying risk in certain ways, really the use case of this protocol is to keep your crypto, take a loan, so that's not a taxable event.
Yep,
potentially. I guess one of the other things we've seen, because this is an algorithmic stablecoin, would you agree? So I think everyone's still a bit shell-shocked from previous algorithmic stable coins out there, such as rebasing type stable coins. Is there any risk of something like that in this system?
Could you elaborate?
Okay, so one of the more recent algorithmic stable coins
but Jexer, sorry, the term algorithmic is being used differently here, though.
That's exactly right. Yeah, and that's what I want to get clear.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's a lot of shell shock from things like Ampleforth, which were algorithmic, but done what they call rebasing in terms of trying to adjust the price of the coin, and that is the most unstable stablecoin I've ever seen. So
I think Jex is trying to highlight that this is not an algorithmic stablecoin in the sense that the supply is algorithmically determined to try to maintain stability. It is actually the algorithmic side of it is to do with the encouragement and discouragement from taking loans.
Exactly. Yeah.
I.e., it's a positive for the project.
Yeah.
And some of those projects I think you're mentioning, Jex, they had admin keys and they'd actually adjusted
true,
the code.
true as well. True as well.
And then they
adjusted
slapped on
their
a government's
code,
token as well.
They tweaked the code, got a bug, got an inflation bug, and off to the races.
Good point.
Yeah. Oh, look, there was multiple levels of suck on that, and what I actually find good is that there's a lot of value capture in this protocol with the actual loan token, whereas you mentioned Uniswap is just a duct tape token that doesn't actually capture any value of the Uniswap network. So I think people need to understand how much
this is completely community driven. The fees go right back to the users.
Yep.
The like how the recovery mode, like what is the recovery mode and how it's triggered?
Yeah, so now we're gonna start getting real technical. So the system wants to see people at healthy collateral levels, right? We don't want anybody to sell their pulse. We wish that everyone would hold their pulse and never sell it. What happens to the price when that happens, right? We're all happy at that point. But there's to make that happen. First off, there's some fees, right? We talked about the fees, which is enticing people in the good, in the healthy times to take a loan if they wish, but also detracting people from taking loans when the system is in not as healthy a state, right? So you'll see a higher rate when the system is not as healthy. And then people will say, oh, I don't want to pay a 5% to obtain a loan. I'll wait. Okay. Now, when the total value collateralized across all of the open loans is averaged at less than 150%, the system will go into recovery mode. It's going to sound scary at first, but bear with me. Accounts that have more than 110% in them can have 110% of the value of what they minted liquidated. So let me explain. The system wants people to be more than 150% collateralized. If the average across the entire network falls below 150%, then that liquidation point that we talked about, which is 110, any accounts that fall under 110 get liquidated. Well, the system goes into recovery mode and it changes just a little bit. Accounts now over 110 also are eligible for liquidation, but only 110% of what they've already minted in the form of stablecoin. So it doesn't matter if you have $1 million worth of pulse in there and you minted yourself $2,000. Guess what? $2,000 plus 10% is all that could ever be liquidated. You're not going to lose all your.
I really like that.
Hey, Dave 43.
I think I just seen a light bulb go on.
No. It's not. It's something that I was thinking about in terms of like something that would have discouraged me from being significantly over collateralized, and this takes that concern away.
The most you could ever lose at any point in any situation in any black swan event or average collateralization level across all of the system is 110% of what you've already gotten in the form of stablecoin and spent how you wanted to.
Nice.
Okay. Now, there is a second. There's a question that was brought up earlier, which is part of the recovery mode. Let's say mathematically it is possible, although very unlikely, because on the other protocols you actually see billions and billions of dollars locked in a very short period of time into the stability pool. But let's say mathematically it comes true and the stability pool is empty. What handles the liquidations? Okay, and it's very simple. Let's say there's no money in the stability pool. There's no stable coin. let's say one of the accounts, the collateral falls to below 110 and it must, somebody hits the button to liquidate it. The Pulse coin from that account gets distributed to all the borrowers, and the debt gets added to all the borrowers' debt as well. And the borrowers across the system just came out net positive. They just gained Pulse.
So it's very similar to someone.
Up.
I guess the analogy would be it's similar to someone emergency end staking.
Yes. Now this is mathematically possible that this could potentially happen someday. The stability pool is completely drained. Let's just say nobody wants to obtain the loan token because they hate staking and they hate generating free USDL. Okay, yes, that is possible. This has been thought about. So because it is a mathematical possibility, it has been programmed into the system. What happens if that ever were to be the case?
That sounds cool. Sorry, can I just go one step back? I just realized that what I thought I had worked out might have actually been not what I thought, because obviously at the point of liquidation, the Pulse can have come down in value. So my fear of being like super over collateralized and then getting liquidated, that can still happen. And even though you're only ever losing 110% of the loan value, at that point of liquidation, the price of Pulse could have come down significantly. So you're still losing a lot of Pulse, even though, so strictly speaking, you're never losing more than 110%, but your exposure does actually increase as you lock up, as you go more and more over collateralized. You are exposing yourself to losing more and more Pulse for the same loan. So it's sort of something.
It's just like if you were holding Pulse and the price goes down, so it's worth it.
So I think there's a balance to get there. There's definitely
that
balance.
calculation for the stable coin, that's going to could it possibly or have this potential, the USDL, to become the more dominant stable in the crypto space, given that there's no admin keys and there's I mean, if everything checks out, then why wouldn't everyone want to use? Wouldn't the social consensus go, well, this is a much better stable coin, we'll use it as our main go-to? Why not? And even in the liquidity pools, perhaps, if you're saying it's a stable coin factory, I mean, there's a lot of great opportunities out in the world where, if you're Johnny on the spot and you got the cash, away you go. Like
Johnny on the spot.
You know what I mean? That was a figure of speech, but like,
I love it, Unwrecked. I love it.
I think you're right, Unwrecked. I think it could become the most important stablecoin, or one of the most important stablecoin. Another one I was thinking of is, obviously, if Richard Hart gets a banking license and creates a stablecoin that's actually backed with then that would also be one that would be worthy within the ecosystem. But look at the other ecosystems; they've got multiple. So I can definitely see this being one of the ones that is widely used and sort of trusted.
Well, that's exciting.
Can I answer one of the users' questions? He says, "Can you pay off the loan in chunks, or do you need to pay off in one, fell swoop?" And the answer is, well, for one, you don't ever need to pay it back if you don't want to. Let's say the price of Pulse just continues to go up. If the price of Pulse continues to go up and your collateralization level is,
pays for itself.
You don't have to, right? But the answer is, at any point you can pay back your loan. You can mint additional stablecoin off of additional collateral that you have over and above 110% of what you've already got. Or you can withdraw the additional Pulse, the over collateralization. If you don't want, 1,000% collateralization level and you'd like to use your Pulse for other things, hopefully you don't just take it out and go sell it, because staring at you right in front of you is an option not to sell it, right? But you can do anything you want. Withdraw Pulse, put Pulse in, pay back stable, mint new stable.
Is there an incentive mechanism for someone to have a loan active even if they don't need it? So, for example, I put in $10,000 worth of Pulse and only take a loan for $1 or 10 cents, something insane like that. That is just you're not even really taking the loan, just simply to have a loan active and have Pulse in the system.
There's a minimum amount though.
Yeah, this might help address that question. So how is the stability pool seeded? So you've got
how is it? Yeah. So on the other chains, when it launched, they launched completely empty. The first guy to put in some, I think on Avalanche chain, first stability provider put in like 5,000. He took a loan. He took his stable coin. He dropped it in the stability pool. It started with $5,000. It can completely start empty.
Yeah. So tangent. What I was sort of trying to draw a line to there is, you could deposit your Pulse, take a loan of USDL, go put that in the stability pool, and if you do that, you are long Pulse. So anything that gets liquidated, you will give up that USDL as part of that liquidation event, and you'll get given Pulse, usually to the tune of about 8% extra. So that may be a reason a way you can put your Pulse to work for extra yield in the system. Yeah.
I think there's a fundamental kind of like problem just within our definitions of loans, because in traditional finance, when we think of loans, we always think of like borrowing money that we don't have. But these protocols are not about borrowing money we don't have. They're just about locking up another form of money that we have in order to get another form of money. So it's kind of like it should be a new word or something. Or I don't know, like it's a different type of loan.
Well, it's a line of credit. It's a line of credit.
Saying the word over collateralized covers that.
And over collateralized.
Over collateralized.
I like that line of credit.
Right.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah.
But like, gee whiz, I was looking at that stake hex today, and I'm like, man, that's why I couldn't believe some of those, as you say, the asset and things like that. You see what the projected earnings are for some of those stakes. Boy, oh boy, why wouldn't you be in hex right now, staking it?
I actually think this is one of the biggest use cases for this loan protocol.
Arbitrage.
To buy hex.
To buy hex and stake it. No, seriously.
Absolutely. Yeah,
I actually think it's one of the best use cases for it.
So you get to hold your
variety. People don't get it around here.
That's what everyone's going to do. That's what loads of people are going to do. They're going to They're going to have a whole Pulse. They'll lock it up. They'll buy hex. They'll stake it way into the future.
And it's like, as long as you're not, you're not putting your collateral at risk in doing that, like you're doing it responsibly, then that is a game changer.
But it's responsible anyway, because even if you only get 110, right? How long do you have to stake to get 10% interest in hex? Right, so it's almost like it's like it price pumps Pulse, it price pumps hex.
Triple bottom line risk management, and you know what? This actually, I think that actually going to help hexagons because, you might have had a good 6 months or whatever, and you did the right thing, and then, you've got your stakes coming up, and you can't manage your finances, and you're in a little bit of a tight squeeze here and there. And instead of having to end emergency end stake, you could just go and do one of these collateralized loans through liquid loans.
No, but it's not hex. It's Pulse. It's Pulse.
No, but I'm saying that. But I'm just saying if you aren't if you're just like treating hex like a little bit of a savings plan, and you've got a few days to get through to the end of a stake.
No, but you can't borrow.
You don't have to go back to living like a.
You're not borrowing against the hex. You're borrowing against the Pulse, and you can always just sell the Pulse anyway.
Hey, Jesse.
I think you don't get the point, but that's okay.
There's a guy that's Stephen's asking about Pulse at launch. Is there a chance that a lot of people sell Pulse? That could be very risky time to get a liquid loan. Liquid loans is not going to be launching at the start of Pulse. Do you want to explain that, Jesse?
Yeah, so it's almost a double-edged or a triple-edged sword. If we need a stable coin, right? The blockchain needs a stable coin. We have reason to believe that USDL and Tether are not going to work. In fact, their user agreements say they're going to turn off the contracts.
Oh, really? You think so?
I think we're going to see some funny things happen. Richard says the same thing. We're going to see some funny things happen with stable coins. So we'd like to get this out immediately so that we have a working stable coin for everybody. But we don't want the super high volatility. Now, if we had everybody and all of Pulse say, oh yeah, we'll go ahead and use that instead of Uniswap or Pulse Swap to sell, then maybe we could save the dump that's likely to occur at the beginning. But to think that we're going to have the entire market say, oh, we're going to use that to extract value, that's too far-fetched. Okay. So the safest thing to do for the community is wait. Get through the initial price volatility. There will be some dumping because remember, there's no time lock on anybody's pulse. So as people have a 3 or 5x or whatever they have, there's certainly going to be lots of people taking profits. Let's get through that. Let Pulse stabilize a little bit, and then we'll introduce this and launch this into the blockchain.
How do you know when Pulse is stable?
Sorry, what was that question?
How do you know when Pulse is stable?
Well, if this thing launches, most launches of blockchains or even tokens or coins in general, you see a major pile in of people trying to buy it, and then you see, a major correction, 30, 40, even all the way up to 80% correction. If we see this big spike in a big dump and then just a steady sideways or upward movement from that point, after the first month, then we know we've gotten through that major, the initial volatility, and it's time to go.
It might not even take that long. Sometimes even within a day, that initial price discovery is over. And you could have a warning message that comes up on the website that explains that and says, you need to read this and understand that in this early stage, this is a large risk that will go away. And if you're still happy to participate, so if there are some people that just don't mind the risk and want to be involved in the protocol early, they could start to throw down. And you might be pleasantly surprised with the magnitude of people who are willing to get involved that would protect. Did you say the more people that are involved in the system, the more stable it is, right? The better, the less.
If they're doing it at responsible collateralization levels.
Oh, could you start off with the minimum collateralization being higher and then bring it down over time?
Well, not if it's a admin. If it's a
oh yeah, true.
No, but you can code that at launch. So after X days,
after X blocks.
Yeah.
Is it possible to do like an Aussie dollar stable coin at some point as well?
Do you think it'll get used?
Just pull out a calculator.
Good point.
Somebody asked a question. They asked about what about inflation bugs? Let me explain. There's no inflation. This is not an actual US dollar where they just print more and more and more of it with nothing to back it. Every single one of these has collateral locked behind it, and no USDL is ever brought into circulation without a user, all of you, putting something in to back it. You mint your own stablecoin. This is a stablecoin factory.
This is the Fed, isn't it? Literally, it's producing you're printing the coins.
Don't swear on this channel.
Jesse, there's a question here from Hexy Bastard. If you did a loan for say 10K and the price of Pulse goes up 10x, does it still only cost 10K USDL to take back the Pulse?
No, actually, so it only costs 10K. You mint 10K, you have to bring, if you wish to, you bring back 10K.
So that Pulse could go up to $1 million, but your loan in USDL can get paid back with 10K.
That's correct. And at any point, even without paying back, you can withdraw all that $990,000 if you'd like, while the loan is still open.
Mm-hmm.
You can just withdraw all that extra pulse, or you can mint additional stablecoin and move your collateralization level.
Okay. So the ability to move things around is just so much more open than legacy. It's just the only limiting factor is that 110%. That's the only thing that limits you. You can be putting stable in and out. You can be putting pulse in and out. You've just got unlimited control other than that minimum over collateralization level.
Correct.
I mean,
beautiful.
Man, it is so tough to go to a bank. I mean, you go to a bank and ask them to change something. The bank manager looks at you like you're shedding his breakfast cereal or something.
Oh man,
you go to the bank
legacy.
Go to the bank and try and use your crypto as collateral.
Exactly.
These days, try to find a bank that's open.
Yeah.
Did you say you tried that on Rick? You tried that? Did you go in with the horns on?
No, I just just made a couple of phone calls and wasn't really serious about it. I just wanted to find out. But yeah, the same thing. They thought they reckoned I was from another planet, and I was flat out getting a $2,000 credit card. But anyway, that's another story.
Hey Jesse,
let me explain something real quick that we haven't touched on at all, and that's $200. It sounds like Monopoly. $200, don't pass go or something, right? So, when you take a loan, you actually lock up $200 worth of USDL. That stays there. You get that back if you ever pay back your loan. If you never pay back that loan, that 200 USDL that you had minted just stays there. And what is that even for? That covers the gas fees involved in the liquidation process. If that loan value was ever to get liquidated, that covers the gas fees.
Should that be stored in Pulse? Should that be stored in Pulse rather than USDL?
No, because
the gas fee can fluctuate in dollar terms, but it's not likely to fluctuate as hardcore in Pulse.
It's basically a reward. It's an incentive. Let's consider it an incentive.
Oh, okay, like a holding fee sort of thing,
Remember, I said somebody has to press the button to liquidate an account. So if you press the button to liquidate an account that fell under 110, you get $200.
Okay. Okay, that makes sense. Right.
Is it just the $200 you get?
You get 200.
And your share of the
distribution of the.
And your share of the distribution, but that's shared among everyone, not just you.
Right.
I thought there was another.
There's a small percentage of the liquidated pulse that you get, and that's 0.5.
Yeah. So there's an incentive to be to someone that monitors the system and does those liquidations to keep everything in balance.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Okay.
DJ Cryptomatic, there was something I think we've missed, which I think will help. I think will clear up your concern about price stability.
Yeah.
So if you have one USDL, it can always buy $1 worth of Pulse.
That's correct.
So if on the market it falls down to 95 cents, you can still redeem it for $1 worth of Pulse.
That's correct.
So it creates an arbitrage situation where people will be encouraged to redeem it and get that Pulse and bring it back into balance.
So
now, to keep some whales honest, there's a fee attached to that. And that fee, I believe, is 0.5% of that Pulse goes straight to the stakers. Remember the stakers of the loan token? They're going to be collecting any arbitrage fees.
Something that I really like is that a lot of people's concerns are able to be alleviated by just by saying, look, someone is already running something similar and this part of it works fine. You know what I mean? Like this would be a lot scarier for people if this was a brand new protocol that had never been tested and you're thinking, oh, okay, yeah, some of this stuff sounds good in theory, guys, but we don't know for sure how it's actually going to work in practice. Whereas we actually have the practical example to point to. I think that's for me personally, that's putting my mind at rest for a lot of these issues.
Definitely.
So I've got one more question. The part that just I found really, really difficult to wrap my head around in the white paper was the borrowing fee and if it's possible to maybe just try